Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Once again, this is your boy Lewis checking back in with yet another video. I hope you guys are doing great today. I hope everybody's enjoying their Monday. If you happen to be working, hope you're still having a productive day. If not, and you're at home or whatever it is you're doing, I hope your day is going great. So, there was something that happened yesterday and it was just reported, and it's about a situation that it just made me just think a little bit, and I'm going to get two sides of the story. So one, it was reported yesterday that, for one, if anybody knows about the Houston Rockets, there's a situation going on about Carmelo Anthony. Now, what happened was that he has missed the last two games due to illness. And according to the GM Daryl Morey, and as it was reported, he said, or it was reported that they said, that Melo was going to miss the team. He was going to miss and not fly with the team. And I find it really funny that why is it that 12 games into the season, Carmelo is all of a sudden not going to be part of the team and he just happened to be sick? What that's telling me is you're sending a message as, we made a mistake in signing you, Carmelo, and we don't want you on the team. And now it's going to be reported that Carmelo's possibly going to be playing his last game with the Rockets, or his days are numbered. And what I don't understand is, why is it that you signed a player who, in your eyes, you thought was going to help your team, but yet all of a sudden, 12 games in, he might have played his last game as a Rocket because he apparently isn't given the production that you guys were hoping for? Now, you need to understand something. Who is Melo's coach? Mike D'Antoni. You remember that guy? Yeah, the guy who I call Mr. Pringles when he has his little mustache. He's the guy that you find in the Pringles can. That's who Mike D'Antoni is. He has a great offensive system, and he's a very good offensive coach. Here's the problem. Now, when you have a basketball team, when coaches coach, it always depends on the personnel that you have in your team, from your assistant coaches to the players that you have on your team, and trying to figure out what kind of team you're going to be on both ends of the floor. In other words, what's going to be your identity? Now, the thing is, with the players that he has Chris Paul and James Harden, two ball-dominant players. How in the blue hell is Melo going to get his share of the shots when their offense is predicated on ISO basketball and shoot threes? Now, people could talk about all they want and saying that how if Chris Paul was in the playoffs in that Game 6 against the Golden State Warriors, that they would have won. They would have beat the Warriors in that series. Here's the thing I'm going to say about that. I'm going to say they had a chance to win. There's no guarantee that they're going to win. Because if you know anything about the Warriors, they proved it once before against Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook in the 2016 Western Conference Finals. They were down 3-1. And quite honestly, the Thunder, they should have won that series, but they choked. And Klay Thompson had probably arguably the biggest game of his life in that Game 6 when he scored 41 points. And Steph Curry gave 31 on top of that. But my point is that Chris Paul, if he was there in Game 6, I would have said they would have had a chance to win, because if you remember that game, if you keep forgetting, Mike D'Antoni is known to play a short rotation. Now, if you're playing 7 players in the regular season and they're playing so many minutes, how is that going to bode well by playoff time? If you happen to make deep runs in the playoffs, your players are going to be super tired, because then you have no depth. And then they're not going to have the legs to finish games the deeper a series goes. The deeper that your playoff run goes, the deeper the series go, you're not going to have the legs to finish. When it comes to either driving to the basket, whether you're going to be shooting free throws, you might even have bad legs, on top of the fact that your jump shots are going to be off, whether you shoot from the mid-range or you shoot from the three-point line. But yet, Mike D'Antoni, this has been his biggest problem, and it's his way of thinking. He has not adjusted to today's NBA. Yes, do they want to shoot threes? Absolutely. But the problem is his system does not involve any man movement. There's no motion. There's no ball movement. And the thing is, when the ball moves, you have a very successful chance of getting a great shot any single time. The problem is Chris Paul and James Harden. Chris Paul may be a pure point guard. I get all that. But let's be real. Him and Harden isolating the basketball and holding it for the majority of the shot clock, That's not gonna win. That's not winning basketball. And in the playoffs, it was proven against the Golden State Warriors. And I'm gonna say this right now: people need to stop with Iguodala and saying how he wasn't important. People are glorifying how more important Chris Paul is than Iguodala. Listen, Iguodala is very important because I'm telling you, if Iguodala was on that team, the Rockets would have lost in 5 games. And I don't care who gets upset about that, but it's the damn truth. Because again, the Warriors are the masters at making adjustments, game by game adjustments. This is why they've won. It's not just because of the fact they have breaks, but anytime that they lose, they make adjustments. And another part, again, it's yes, they have breaks, and yes, the other teams fail to try to understand on how to close out a team like the Warriors. But the bottom line is that again, this is why you also got to give the Warriors credit. I mean, this is why that they've been so great for so long. But anywho, a little off topic, back to Carmelo. So Carmelo, he is still a very productive person in this league. What I don't like is all of a sudden the Rockets' struggles are because of Carmelo Anthony, because Carmelo is a cancer. But then Chris Paul last night said Melo is such a great teammate. If he's such a great teammate, then why is Daryl Morey trying to get rid of him? And like I said, Mike D'Antoni, him and Melo have been known to clash because Melo wanted to play his style of play, and D'Antoni wanted his style of play, and that Melo did not adjust to what he wanted. That's why those two didn't get along. Now, if you know Melo, Melo is not a guy who plays fast pace. He plays in the half court, and his half court is on isolations and post ups. Okay? And the only time that Melo really runs in transition is opportunistically when he likes to pull up from three. When he was starting to do a lot when he went to the Knicks. But what I'm telling you is that Melo is about isolation and post ups. Melo is not on a team that has a style that is suitable to his strengths. That was the problem in OKC. In OKC, you had the LeBron James system 2.0 with a less efficient Russell Westbrook. I'm not trying to hate on the brother. The brother's a great player. The problem is he's in a less efficient system where Russell has the ball in his hands. Melo's not going to get the type of shots that he's going to get. So Melo has to be relegated to a role player. But here's the problem. Melo also needs to understand that he's not at the level that he once was at. Am I saying he's still productive? Absolutely. He just made a huge mistake at signing with Chris Paul and James Harden. And because I was saying this, I said, why is Melo going to go to a team with 2 other ball dominant players? I said, I felt like he was not going to get the distribution of the shots. And what happens when things go wrong? He's going to be a scapegoat. And that's exactly what's happening now. Daryl Morey is saying it's false. And he's saying that Melo is, he's a part of this team and he's going to join the team again. That we're not trying to get rid of him. And I'm saying that's BS because I know in that message, that's basically saying, Melo, you have outdone your welcome. Best of luck in your future endeavors. Thank you for your services, but you're no longer needed. And you're apparently the problem because you have not performed to your capabilities. The last time I checked, Melo is not the only bad defensive player in the NBA. Melo's never really been known as a great defender. The only time that I really see Melo really put that great effort of defense, he did it in the Western Conference Finals against Kobe in 2009, and he did it in the 2013 season when the Knicks won 54 games. Like, that was the one time I saw really Melo engaged on both ends of the floor. That was the really only time. Okay? But I don't understand how you could be bashing Carmelo when there's a lot of guys in this league that don't play defense. And then all of a sudden, all these guys leapfrog Melo as if they're just like drastically so much better than him. When there's a lot of inconsistent players in this game right now. And if you forget, you have to understand the era and generation we're in. We are not in yesteryear's NBA. Yesterday's NBA was a lot more physical. It was a lot more defensive than compared to today. Today is all about benefiting the offensive players. And the league wants more points scored. And to be honest with you, the grind out games were actually what made basketball a lot of fun. There was a lot more intensity in those games. A lot more. The thing is, you see now is that a lot of things is like the NBA pretty much is like they already have something set in stone. Like you already know what's going to happen. And it's like it's a lot more predictable now than it was back then. See, that's the thing that people don't understand. Right now, it's like, again, you really can't touch guys. You really can't be that physical. Again, like guys shoot a lot of 3-point shots. Like you could talk about, and that's the problem. And Melo gets the short end of the stick because, again, Chris Paul and James Harden, these guys are protected so much That's why Melo is going to get a part of the blame. But it's like, again, James Harden is not playing defense this year. Yes, Chris Paul has been hurt. Again, so you got to give a little bit of pass. But it's like part of the problem is Chris Paul plays too many minutes. He's not taking care of his body. And historically, Chris Paul is known to have anxiety in the postseason. He's had great series, don't get me wrong. But like I said, in the biggest of moments, he's known to have anxiety. And the thing is also, he's always had bad timing with his injuries. Like, one thing I must say that's unfortunate with Chris Paul, that he's had unfortunate injuries, of course. But at the same time, it's like when the moment gets so amped up, it's like this guy just gets nervous and something ends up happening. And it's just the way it is. But to blame Melo for the Houston Rockets problems when it's a team aspect, how come nobody talks about the fact that Trevor Ariza's not on that team? How come nobody talks about Bahamute's not on that team? Because those guys were great defenders that really helped the team. It's like, why get rid of what helped you be successful? You were one win away, one win from knocking off the Golden State Warriors. One win. And you get rid of that after winning 65 games. All of a sudden, you're much weaker defensively. And it's funny, last year the Rockets were in the top 10 in a lot of defensive categories with the style of play that they had. It's just, I question, people keep saying that the Rockets would have beaten LeBron James, and I'm telling you right now, I'm sorry, but that ISO-heavy three-point shot making, you would have to be extremely hot to be able to beat the Cleveland Cavaliers. And it wasn't going to happen, no matter what people say. I'm telling you, good system beats a good offensive system, always beats self-systems that have to deal with isolation or ball-dominant players. A self-proclaimed ball-dominant player system is always going to get out-trumped by a team system. It's just the way it is. So you're talking about Harden and Chris Paul, two ISO players right now. As much as Chris Paul is a pure point guard, again, the assist does not come until an assist is really necessary late in the shot clock. That's not good offense. And Mike D'Antoni continues to play short rotations. He's not a good defensive coach, obviously, because he doesn't really preach defense. This is why his teams always struggle in the postseason. That's the problem. They don't defend, and it's like they get reliant on shooting the three-point shot. Like, there's really no movement. That's why Mike D'Antoni's never been proven as a proven winner in the postseason. Your system is good for the regular season. It's not built to win in the postseason. And that's what people fail to understand that. And people acting like, oh, Ariza wasn't the savior. Like, why are people acting like Ariza was the savior? Like, he wasn't the reason that they were such a great defensive team. No, but he helped. He was an integral part in their defense. He was a 3-and-D guy, make three-point shots, and guard the wing players. Some of the top wing players, because Ariza's a very good defender. Bahamute, defending along with Capella. But you lost two key defensive pieces, and you're struggling defensively. And now PJ Tucker has to actually cover more ground defensively. See, when you have Ariza, Tucker, and Mahamute, you're talking about three very good defenders. And if they actually played also, playing a 7-man rotation is not good because you're wearing your players out. That's just too many minutes for them to play. They're not going to have the energy or the legs to finish games. But to sit here and blame Carmelo for that, and he has to be the scapegoat, this is almost kind of like you're throwing, and it's crazy. It's not even this is your coach and this is your GM, low key, throwing Melo under the bus. For people who actually see it, it's like you could tell that they're throwing him under the bus, and that's not right. But again, Melo should have never signed with the Houston Rockets because this was going to happen. How are you going to get a share of the shots? What is your prominent role going to be? Yes, Melo should at this point be a role player, but again, he should have an important role. But it wasn't going to happen. And the thing is, you're trying to start, and I'm like, Melo, you could be a bench player. But to sit here and just exposing your bias, it's just pretty pathetic, man. It's pretty pathetic. It's like, I don't get it, man. It's like these guys, again, and the thing is, people need to understand something. What is Chris Paul? He is the president of the Players Association. You don't think that they're gonna endear him? And besides, this is why Chris Paul's also jealous of Steph Curry, because Steph Curry has won MVPs and he's won championships. And Chris Paul's played longer than he has, and he hasn't won anything. That's the problem. Chris Paul has made all defensive selections. Don't get me wrong. He's been part of all NBAs. Again, he has accolades, just not the most important accolades. That he can lead a team to a championship, because Chris Paul is not the best teammate. He can be endearing and he can be demanding. But at the same time, again, the reason that Chris Paul hasn't had his breakthrough in one part is because he's had the bad timing with the injuries, but at the same time, he's had anxiety. And that's the issue. But the fact that Melo's getting blamed for this is it's sad. It's really sad. And he doesn't deserve that. You don't have to be a fan of Carmelo, okay? You could say I'm not a fan of Carmelo, but to sit here and just blame him when there's so many guys that don't play defense in the NBA, it's just blasphemy. It's beyond me. It's ridiculous. Like, you're really going to sit here and say Melo is a cancer? Listen, Melo's not the best teammate, and like I said, Melo is known to play his style of play, and he's not a system player. That I know. But to sit here and blame him for your defensive problems, he's one player. The Rockets got rid of 2 defensive players. Or they let go 2 defensive players and decide not to bring them back. And they're struggling. I'm sorry, but Melo doesn't get blamed for that. That's just exposing your bias. And that's just really sad. I don't understand it. Really, really pathetic on the part of the sports media. It's like they just cater to whoever. Everybody else is a scapegoat, but just, again, the media darlings like James Harden. And this dude has always been known to flake out in the postseason. Got his MVP and all, you know. I don't understand how James Harden is getting that pass, because this dude don't play defense for a lick. And he played it last year. But again, this dude don't play a lick of defense. Chris Paul's not defending well. Yes, he has an injury. I get that. I get it. But he hasn't played well. And it's like there has been really no leadership right now. And like I said, Mike D'Antoni, to me, is not the coach of that Rockets team, believe it or not. He's not. Because, again, you chose a guy. Yeah, you can look into analytics all you want, GM Mr. Daryl Morey. But my problem is that, again, you need defense to win. It's not just the fact that you have an offensive. Again, your mindset is trying to outscore the other team. But you need defense. That's the problem. And Melo's not, it's just one player. When the thing is, it takes 5 guys to defend on the basketball court, not just one. So the fact that Melo's getting blamed for this is just unbelievable. And shame on Daryl Morey and shame on Mike D'Antoni. Because Mike D'Antoni, you know you don't like Carmelo and you don't like the way he plays. And then you're going to sit there. You got to sit there and lie and say, oh, the politically correct answer to look good, to not look bad. Because deep down, you know you did not want Melo on this team. You didn't. Melo wanted to be in Houston, but it was like, again, he was not going to get the bulk of the shots with the fact of you have 2 ball-dominant players in James Harden and Chris Paul. It's just not going to work. It's just not going to work. 2 playmakers, it's just, again. And like I said, I'm telling you, Melo, they're not going to feed the hot hand. They would take it away from Melo. Trust me. Because, again, their style of offense, and you even saw it in the postseason and even against the Warriors, they'll get rid of the hot hand. And it's like they can shoot themselves in games, but they can shoot themselves out of games. That offense is just going to work. And it's like Melo, again, put himself in another bad situation. I'm sorry. But like I said, we should not be bashing Melo. Melo is a great offensive player. Yes, he doesn't play defense, but the guy can still be productive. Shame on the media. It's like you just never learn, man. That's just not right that he's getting blamed for something that should be involved with the team. It's like we never look at the other players. It's like we always look at a player like him, and it's just easy to blame, the scapegoat. Guys like Kevin Love, guys like Chris Bosh. I mean, it could go on and on. It's just like LeBron, again, like even last year after the trade deadline, all of LeBron's teammates, Larry Nance, Jordan Clarkson, Kyle Korver, we could go on and on and on, man. But that's the thing. So you know what I say to that, man? It's like, again, didn't Chris Paul say last night that Melo has been a good teammate in the locker room? Well, If you're saying, I'm saying like again, if Chris Paul's saying that, why is he being out 2 games because of illness, and that he's gonna quote unquote join the team on the trip, but you're really saying he's no longer part of the team? The media again with their implicit agendas once again, and that's why people need to start waking up and starting to see this. Because there are people who are still just like, oh, it's all Melo's fault. Melo's a cancer. I'm telling you, Melo is not really a system player. That I know. I do know that. But at the same time, you should not be blaming Melo again for both your offensive and defensive struggles. He hasn't played well, but it also deals with style of play. It's like there's just more factors to why a player's not playing well than just him not playing well. That's what you have to understand. Melo has really not had a rhythm at all this season. Melo's never been known as a defender, but I think he would try if he knew what his role was and if he would get a bulk load of the shots. I think it would inspire him to play at least some defense. But he's not the main reason, and it's pathetic. It's really pathetic. That's just really sad, man. All right, peace.